welcome everyone to another episode of our podcast. My name is Nate, and this is the love of my life, Deanna, my wife. This is the Photo Album Podcast. Welcome. We got a new episode for you tonight. We are going to be talking about taking things slow. We're going to talk about recognizing where you are in life and what you have, slowing things down and being content with what's happening. Not rushing through whatever season in life you may be in. And I think we've got several examples of our own life that we've done such that. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. We're just having a discussion. This is, I think, our 6th episode that we've done now. And that's pretty much what we've been doing, is having discussions about our lives, where we are, where we were, who we are, who we were. And it's been great. I've been enjoying it. I hope you guys are enjoying it also. I hope this is maybe not your first episode that you've watched, but if it is, welcome. And feel free to follow us on our social media accounts, subscribe to us on YouTube, and keep tuning in. We started rolling out content just recently, and we're trying to get stuff out there every day. Not really sure what our long-term goal is with this, but again, if you're new here, this podcast is called The Photo Album. Our brand is called The Photo Album, and just a reminder, this is our photo album. This is where we are in life, documented through photos and videos, creative works that we've done, and we're going to be putting out more stuff over time. Hopefully, some new types of content. Eventually, we're going to start putting some music out there.
Yeah,
and we're excited about that.
Yeah.
So we're excited to be here. We're excited to have you here, and we're excited to get into this topic today. But before we do that, what's going on in our lives? What's been happening?
lots and lots of snow. Yep, we got hit with more snow, which was fun.
Well, I don't know if it was fun, but yeah, we.
Well, you know what? Let me say this. We didn't have snowsuits for all the girls at the last snowstorm. And we didn't, just because the last time I had bought snowsuits, when I bought them, we got no more snow. And I think like the following year we had very little snow, and they all grew out of them. And then it was like, that was a complete waste. So I hadn't bought snowsuits. We had one. And so of course I buy them after the past snowstorm, because I was like, all right, they'll get outside. But then it turned to ice. So no one went outside. So I was actually kind of happy we got more snow.
Right. So
I felt vindicated in the snowsuits that they were all able to go outside.
I think this is our one way to turn something negative into a positive, is that we got to use the new snowsuits.
Although Annie, she was like a newborn giraffe in the snow. Like she was walking like she had never.
Yeah, she didn't
almost
have
like
fun.
the way babies walk when they first like step on grass and they're like unsure if you can actually walk on grass or not. She was.
I think she was just in the mood that day.
She was really struggling.
But the crazy thing about this recent storm was that after that first storm we had back in January, because of the temperatures, the snow and ice stuck around for a good 4 weeks.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Finally, there was one day that we got where all the snow was gone. It was actually a nice day. It was in the 50s. We hung out in the backyard, and got a fire going. I did a little video of that. You may have already seen that, or it's going to be coming up soon. And it was just a great day. And I think it was that night we got
more snow.
At least a foot of snow.
I mean, more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a ton. And it was like packed snow.
Yeah.
Because at one point when we all took them outside, I like packed up some snow to throw like a small snowball at Molly. And it hit her. It was like, boom. It hit her like, and she looked at me. She was like, ow. And I felt horrible. I thought it was going to like,
throwing snowballs at your kids.
I thought it was going to like explode and she would laugh. And then I was expecting retaliation. Probably she'd probably throw him back, but it hit her like a rock.
Yeah.
I felt really bad.
But yeah, that was last week, and luckily the temperatures have been manageable, and the snow is pretty much already gone by today. So we had another beautiful day today.
It was beautiful today. It's very nice.
And when we say beautiful, we mean everything's wet outside.
Yeah.
It's in the low 50s.
But it's not.
But the sun was out. We're not,
It's not
freezing.
4 degrees. Yeah.
So it was a good day.
Yeah. But what? Oh, I'm getting over a cold.
Yeah, we
so
all are.
My voice is like all scratchy.
I think in the last 2 weeks we've all had something.
We've all had something.
Annie stayed home from school on Tuesday.
She did. Although I don't know that it was one of those hard to call moments. It was almost like as soon as you guys left, she was like, "What do you want to do, Mom?"
Right.
Like she was all
better by the time it was too late to go to school.
Yeah, and it wasn't like she's not old enough to play pretend. Like she then wanted to be at school.
Yeah.
Because she was bored at home.
But none of her sisters were here to play with.
And we were both working, so it was like, yeah, you know.
Last Saturday was pancakes and pajamas.
Pancakes and pajamas up at church.
Yeah. I did a video of that also. That'll be up soon, or it's already up.
Yeah.
And,
it was a good time.
Yeah, it was cool.
The girls enjoyed it.
All the cousins were there on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides. That's right. They were all there. And Annie loved that all the songs were like animal themed.
Yeah.
Our little veterinarian Annie, she loves.
Mimi was there. She got to enjoy all of her grandkids. That's my mom. Shout out to Mimi.
And my mom got there like an hour and a half into
She did. She got
she
there
just like showed up. We were done eating the pancakes,
right.
and she's like, "Hi guys."
And then what else? Was there anything else that 2 weeks ago was Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
I think we already talked about that.
We did already talk about that. But then today was Audrey's birthday.
Right.
So the girls got to dress up. It was a princess theme. Audrey is my niece. Princess themed party.
I wasn't allowed.
Yeah, no boys.
Girls only.
Girls only. And
so I just had to go out and do something on my own. It was just terrible.
So bad. No, but the girls, they had a good time. They really enjoyed it. And Katrina, my sister-in-law, our sister-in-law, she did a great job. It was so cute. The whole, she had, they made little like jewelry boxes. They painted them and got their face painted. And Annie was just covered in paint. But
yeah. She was also, Annie's box or her herself?
Her herself. And the box.
Yeah, I was going to say, either way,
were.
they were both bedazzled also. Yeah. She had all these jewels all over her, all over the box. And by the end of the night tonight, I was walking around the house.
Yeah, picking up jewels.
Picking jewels off the walls.
At one point,
Thank you, Aunt Katrina.
I felt like a couple of the little girls were like, because after they painted the jewelry boxes, we let them dry. I think they had cake, whatever. And then they got to like put the like jewels on them. And there was face painting during this, so it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
It was really cute. But I kept hearing girls be like, hey, can I have some jewels? Where's like the sheet of jewels? Where's all like the jewels? And then at the end, when I looked at them, Annie's jewelry box was just piled. Like she had them all.
Yeah.
And it had just been like layer. Like
I can imagine. There were a lot.
On top. And I was like, this is her. This is Annabelle. Whereas like Molly's were meticulously placed in lines.
That's funny.
But they had a great time. Happy birthday, Audrey.
Cool. How old is Audrey now?
5. Yeah.
All right. And anything else going on that you can think of?
I don't think so. I think that's probably it.
I got to go out, by myself today. I don't get to do that often, but it was nice to be outdoors. Mm-hmm. I brought my camera with me. I was experimenting, doing some filming myself, which is still, rather awkward.
It is so awkward.
But it was nice because I got out there. I was out there at like 6:30 in the morning. There was no one else out there. It was bitter cold, but the light was beautiful. There was some fog, and it looked like the footage looks like I'm like in London or something. But yeah, that was fun. I got to go up to Palmyra Nature Cove and walk around. A ton of wildlife out, and then like I said, today was a beautiful day. It got got warm, and got to hang out with my dad.
Was there a lot of wildlife in the?
I mean, there was a ton of deer everywhere. I encountered a couple patches of turkeys.
I'll never forget going there once, and you let me use your binoculars and seeing like a rabbit or something,
Okay.
and using the binoculars to look at it and seeing the amount of giant ticks stuck to its body
Oh gosh.
through the binoculars, and suddenly being like, because you couldn't see it, like it wasn't like it was far away. It was like a decent distance, and looking at it and being like, oh yeah, it's just a rabbit. And then when I could use those binoculars, being like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's covered in like grape-sized ticks.
Your one outdoor story would involve ticks.
Would involve some kind of bug that I don't want to. Yeah, a week before we got married,
All right. Why don't we move on to the topic?
we were in the woods for pictures, and we got chiggers, and so I had chiggers for our wedding day.
Well, there
Little
you go.
bug bites under my dress.
The whole wedding was ruined.
It was not ruined. Actually, luckily, you really couldn't tell because they were on my legs.
Yeah.
I had a long dress on.
All right. Well, let's get into this topic.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said before, today we just wanted to talk about slowing things down and just really recognizing, where you are in life, appreciating what you have in life. I think it's so easy to not do that and to, like you say, just kind of hurry up and get to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I've said to you often recently is just, really as a reminder, and I know it's kind of a downer, but because this is what I tell myself, I think that life right now is quite possibly the best it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
And that can sound negative in a way because it really takes away all hope. But obviously it's not meant to do that. It's actually meant to do the exact opposite. And it's really just meant to remind us that, look, we're all healthy.
Yeah.
None of us have any major health issues right now. Our kids are healthy. All of our parents are alive. I mean, I think that right there is maybe the biggest thing.
Yeah. Because
I just don't know how many people our age, can say that. And who knows, maybe it's a lot of people. And if it is, great, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
But I just think it's important that we continue to remind ourselves about that because, obviously the day is going to come. And it's going to be a shame if it comes out of nowhere and we have to then go, man, I wish we realized what we had when we did. And I don't want to keep bringing it up, but again, that's really the reason that we're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Is I'm trying to just capture everything I can while things are so good, because not because things are just going to get worse, but because things are so good right now. We're so grateful. And, it's just a daily reminder that I don't want to stop, remembering. So I'm very content with life right now, but obviously it's not always that way. And I think there's many stages in life, in our lives, where we can look back and just kind of say like, we were kind of rushing through it to get to the next thing.
Sure.
Even you brought up, even as far back as like dating, or looking, being single rather.
Well, I can't say that I necessarily felt like that was something that I had done. I mean, I think when we were talking about this and I was kind of considering where I did feel like there were moments and seasons in life that I would have been like, all right, well, let's just get through this and we'll get to the next thing. That I was trying to think, okay, like when do I feel like that kind of started? And I don't know that I felt like that's 100% where I was in like singlehood, but I felt like it was an important the important place to start, because from my experience from the time, and I would say even now, just different people that I know and interact with and that season in life, singlehood, sitting there waiting for the Lord to bring along, who your partner for life, at least around here. And you can, I would have to say probably everywhere, just with the growth of online dating, that it's not easy anymore to find someone. And it is clearly a big enough spot that I've seen people literally hinge their relationship with Christ on that fact. Sure. So what I mean by that is I've watched people just take such a turn. They're on fire for the Lord, or at least, walking in just walking with the Lord, Christian school, church, whatever it may be. And, they graduate, they maybe go to a Christian college, they don't find, a spouse at Christian college, or maybe they don't, maybe they go right into the workforce, but just church-going individuals who the Lord doesn't bring someone in their life within the time period that they feel is the correct time period. And literally it turns their life away from the Lord, because instead of sitting in singlehood and saying, all right, this is where I am. And look, it is completely natural and normal to have that ache if it's not coming and it's something you want. God created Adam, and I believe it's Your Marriage, God's Way. I really love that book. I think it's such a great book, where he talks about how in every day of creation, God, at the end of the day, God said, this is good. It was good, what he had created. And when he created Adam, he looked at it and said, this is not good. It's not good that he's alone. And so he created Eve, a helper, to come alongside of Adam and help him in the, kind of the mission that he'd given Adam. And he said, this is very good. So I guess in the book, Your Marriage, God's Way, he talks about how God used a woman to take something that was not good and make it very good, because he's given Adam a helper. And so I think it's completely normal to have that ache, because if we're honest, most of us aren't Paul, and most of us, I think the Lord's plan for many of us, I'm not going to say all of us, but many of us, is that we would find a spouse. And so it's normal to have that ache. But I think when it comes to taking our eyes off of Christ and then honing in on, this is what I want, and that want becomes bigger than your trust in Christ, that I've seen people who they're particularly women, but that's mostly because I am a woman, so that's who I would be interacting with and talking to, in being like, I'm looking for a Christian guy, and obviously, being attracted to him. Is he funny? Is he this? Is he that? Like all these different things, they're important. I mean, you have to have that, spark. But suddenly it becomes, you can't find that. And so then it turns into, well, he's attractive and he's funny and he's confident and he has a good job. Oh, and he's a Christian. But it's like, you suddenly have to start explaining how he's a Christian. He doesn't go to church. He parties on the weekends. He's this and that. And then it turns into like, he's religious, which like, that's the red flag. He's religious. I feel like that, at least around here, like that basically means he's like not an atheist.
Right.
Like
it means he goes to church on Easter and Christmas.
For like Lent, exactly. Right. He goes to church. So, and so then you watch how that you almost become like Sarah trying to, help God along in providing a offspring. Like, oh, let's use Hagar, like helping him along by looking for these people who they feel the need that you have, but it's not what God intended, because they're suddenly you've taken your eyes off of being content in singlehood and saying, all right, God, where you have me, there's some joy in this. There's joy. Your life doesn't start when you get married. It's already begun. And there is joy in singlehood that, yeah, there are things you trade off when you get married. There is. I mean, there's so much that you gain, but there are things that you give up when you get married. That while single, you can sit there and be like, thank you, Lord, for these right now. I mean, freedom in a lot of regards is a big one.
And, it was making me think, when before we started dating, I didn't date anybody, I think for, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years. And that's a long time. Obviously that was, I think I brought this up either in the last episode or an episode before that where, it was right after the time that I had just kind of changed a lot of things in my life and just really wanted to focus on other relationships and just kind of rebuild some other relationships that were important to me before, focusing on that kind of relationship. And it was easy to do at first just because it had been so long since I had really focused on my relationship with my parents. So being able to spend time with them I was perfectly content with that for several years. And, in my situation, it's probably a little different because I had come from a past of many other relationships and messy relationships and just, not anything that was fulfilling in life. And, but eventually, after several years, it started to get tough. And, I like I said, I even started to consider maybe online dating. And, I think people say like, if you're doing online dating, are you like going against waiting for God? Is that like,
oh, yeah, no.
But I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I mean, because that might be God's plan for you. So, so I don't think there's anything wrong with online dating, and I don't think that that is anything against what God might have for you. But back to your point is, make sure that you're picking the right person and not just picking him because you can't wait anymore because you're not content with where life is right now. And, but
I think it is.
It's real.
It is. And I've seen, especially the longer it goes. And then as you get older and now your timeline's totally thrown off and someone comes along and he's not, let's just be honest, he's not weird. And suddenly it's like, he's, Brad Pitt or whoever you want to like, because he's like, doesn't have any weird, unusual hobbies or like doesn't have any, and suddenly it doesn't really matter anymore where he is with the Lord or where his walk is with the Lord. And again, I'm not saying like, he needs to be a Bible scholar. I mean, obviously that would be wonderful, but I'm not saying that that's where he needs to be. I mean, there's been plenty of people who, I think it is the position of his heart, not necessarily all that he knows. He may be a brand new believer, but is he on fire for the Lord? Is that the most important thing in his life, or is that kind of the throwaway? And honestly, I think that's what I watched. And that was almost the pull from people who were hearts and eyes on the Lord, sitting and waiting, and suddenly were pulled in bad directions. And honestly, I think I had mentioned this in one of our podcasts before, and I've said to you before that I've rewatched some of our podcasts and I've been like, I don't know if that like came across the right way. But one of the things being, I do think in the Christian community, slowing down a little bit when it comes to marriage. And I didn't necessarily mean like the timing. Like, obviously I'm not saying live it up in your singles and like, don't put off. I think it's a blessing to be able to say you got married young, you started your family young. Like that's 100%. I think that's more in the sense of like mentally really consider what it is, because marriage is not dating with sex. Like that's not marriage. It's way different. Like it's way different than dating. And I remember someone when I was in college, a guy coming and he was speaking in one of the chapels, and he said something to the effect of like, the heartbreak in singlehood pales in comparison to waking up next to someone and either you or they wish they were single.
Right.
And I just remember sitting there and being like, wow. And I don't know if it's just because of who my dad was in doing a lot of counseling, and therefore, like, obviously, if people are going to show up at your house or call your dad while he's sitting right, like, we would have people show up at our house. And so you can't ignore that there's this person sitting there talking about how their marriage is, and so then living with that and knowing that as like a young child, and therefore sitting there being like, I've seen that heartbreak. Like, I've seen that person crying in my living room and being like, I understand what he means, because I can empathize with where that person was, and being like, yeah, that would be very difficult. And I think that's kind of the unfortunate thing, and to slow it down and say, all right, for women, like, submission, we say it's not a choice, and it's not, it's a command. We are commanded to submit to our husbands, but we get to choose who we determine is worthy of our submission by marrying him, and therefore saying, I trust you to lead our family. And so I think it's important in singlehood to look at that and say, is this guy a guy who is following the Lord that I can trust with myself and my family? And I mean, for a man, I think it's the same idea. Is this a woman who I can see submitting to me and who's not going to fight me on every single decision? Is this a woman who, kneels before the Lord? And so all those things, I think, to stop and think about that and remember that there is joy in singlehood, because just getting married to anyone there's a lot of heartache in that.
Sometimes it's just a matter of, taking your eyes off of that goal and just kind of reevaluating your life at that moment and being thankful for what you might have at that time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that applies any time in life, whatever season you're in. And that's hard to do. It's hard to say, all right, I'm going to not go heavy on what I want right now. I'm going to remind myself that life is good right now. And, but of course, maybe you do meet that person and you end up getting married. Then how long do you wait before you have kids?
Right. Yeah. Right. Well,
that's another
thing. And you know what? I don't almost think like, I feel like people fall on all sides of this, because I've seen people who, they love their freedom and therefore they put off kids for quite a while. And I think, I don't know, the reality is that there is kind of like a biological clock in that. But I also know from my personal experience, and this is not necessarily, I don't think this is as widely of a season that people skip the way they want to like rush through singlehood if they're longing for a partner. But for us, I remember just seeing so many of my friends struggling with getting pregnant. And I can let my anxiety get the better of me and start to feel like I do look back and I start to think, did I want us to start our family and to get pregnant just so that I could ease the anxiety of knowing that I could get pregnant, as opposed to were we truly at a place where we were like, no, I think we were. I wouldn't have like rushed it if
it was
we
just
weren't.
a game all along.
No.
Well, look, I was just thinking too, like, luckily, we got married. I'm trying to do the math. I don't know how old I was when we got married. But, I would say I got married a little bit later than what probably the average is.
Yeah.
So I think, the decision to have kids probably wasn't really, it wasn't like, oh man, there's so many more things that I got to do.
No, yeah.
It was kind of like, all right, I didn't get married this long because I was, doing things. I experienced a lot. So obviously I think that made that decision a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
Even if it was just a game to you.
It was not a game.
I'm just joking. I'm just kidding.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, you know what?
It was just a challenge.
Challenge.
Can we do it?
Can we
Yes,
do
we
it?
can. Now what do we do? Now
No.
I know what you're saying.
No, because obviously there was this. We knew that we wanted a family. We knew that we wanted, more than just one child. More like, and we were both, in families of 5. So I think that we landed on that number is probably the fact that that
Quicker than we thought.
we did much quicker than we thought. But I think that was also part of it too. In my mind, I'm thinking if we're looking at potentially 3 kids, and I want them spaced out
Sure.
enough.
Right.
The Lord laughed at that. Spaced out enough.
The Lord was like, this guy's getting old. I better expedite these kids.
So no,
We had twins.
For
we
had
anyone that
twins.
doesn't know, we had twins. And that made things quicker.
So I think you know what? It's not so much that it sped up our timeline. I feel like instead of just being like, ooh, this is exciting that we're trying to get pregnant, I was anxious every month trying to be like, am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? Instead of just being like, let's enjoy this process. Like we're trying to get pregnant. It didn't take us very long to have Molly, to get pregnant with Molly. But I actually, when I think back to it, I remember feeling disappointed and being like disappointed multiple months in a row. And then when I look at it, how long that time frame of us really trying was, I'm like, that was not long enough for me to really feel that way. But I think it was me not being content in the season I was in and suddenly wanting to be in the next one. And instead of just saying, you know what, we're trying to have kids now, we will never be childless again, Lord willing, that we should enjoy what time we have right now because we're looking to make a huge change that we can't unchange. And we would never want to unchange. But I just mean the freedom of, look, the reality is one of the things to be so thankful for in singlehood and pre-kids is the ability to sit with the Lord in silence at any moment that you want and to just say, Lord, I'm in your presence. And to just sit there and whether it be read my Bible or whether it just be like, it's me and the Lord in this moment, whether it's sit down at the piano and play a song and feel none of that. You have to carve that out in your day once you have children. Whereas before it would be like, I'm eating lunch. You know what? Lord, I'm just going to sit in your presence. And now during eating lunch, if I was like, I'm just going to sit in the Lord's presence, it would be a zoo behind me. Like there would be no possible way of me being like, oh, I'm going to just be in the Lord.
Yeah, that's why I started getting up before the sun every day.
Exactly.
Because, none of the kids are up by then. I still got like 2 hours before anyone gets up. And that's the only piece I'm going to get throughout the day.
And I would say that was a season of my life that I felt like I stopped enjoying. I started literally letting anxiety ruin because I was worried about it just from seeing other people going through it. And instead I should have just been like, yeah, this is our adventure and enjoy the process and and then, see where the Lord takes us. And
we got to do the Blue Ridge Parkway.
We did get to do the Blue Ridge Parkway.
I guess we got married in 2017 and we had Molly in 2019, about 2 years later. So we really only did like one big trip, and that was the Blue Ridge Parkway.
But we did like the bridge, like we did little
Well, the Blue Ridge Parkway we did a video on. So if you're on YouTube,
we did a video of the Bridgeton house.
We did, but the Blue Ridge Parkway is way cooler.
Yeah, it is way cooler.
You can watch that video on YouTube, and that's my wife and I before we had kids. We look a little different, and that was. We planned that trip out. I'd never done anything like that. And that was cool. We drove all the way down to was it North Carolina? And then drove all the way back up, hitting different spots. And I'm sure we probably would have planned some other cool vacations.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think the Bridgeton house, were you pregnant by then? Or
no, I don't think so.
when we went to Washington D.C., you were pregnant.
I was pregnant
Yeah.
when we went to Washington.
So
DC.
we did a couple other mini trips,
Yeah.
but you know, we other than our honeymoon, we really haven't
Yeah, well,
which is fine. I'm not complaining.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
But we had 2 years. We had 2 years of doing different things
Yeah.
and enjoying.
I just said this to someone in church the other day that I wouldn't trade having our kids for being single or being
No.
childless and being able to go out on vacations and go to different
Absolutely
places.
not. Absolutely not.
It's having our kids, and I say our kids just because I just love them so much. But yeah, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So
Yeah, but I do feel like when we had Molly, with her, there was definitely a sense of enjoying her each day. I think there was a lot of stress, just particularly for me in the working from home with the child, because that was right when COVID hit. And so everyone kind of got, moved around and,
well, that was I would say that was 6 months before the world shut down. So we spent 6 months where I was still going into the office.
yeah, and
that-
I was, yeah.
things would have been harder then technically,
Right.
before I started working from home. But
Yeah, so it was definitely, it was definitely a blessing that we were able to stay home. Obviously, COVID in and of itself is not, but that we were able to then work from home through that. But it was difficult in other ways, in feeling like I was now doing both the work of a stay-at-home mom and being a full-time employee, and that is not an easy load to balance. And you're doing 2 full-time, and with stay-at-home mom, kind of full-time plus jobs. And yeah, it was definitely not easy. But I do remember just consistently being like, we would put her to bed and I would open up pictures and be like, I want to go get her.
yeah, well, and that's that's an example of just kind of being content, even though things were tough. Things were tough having full-time jobs, having a newborn at home. It was also a huge blessing, and having one child is not easy, but when in hindsight, once you've had a couple other kids,
One child is
one child is a joy.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Having more kids is fun too, but
Yeah.
not the kind of fun that one kid is.
I would say, I feel like that's together, the two of us, when we went into having the twins, who we adore, we absolutely love them. That would be the season that I felt like I lost my contentment.
Right.
And just, I remember.
I think we both did.
Yeah. And I remember, I had mentioned this to you before, but I remember having people over after we had them and you talking to some of the moms and being like, basically kind of like not complaining, but I mean, just going through like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. And for the moms, they're all sitting there like, yeah, that's what a mom does. And me realizing, yeah, this is all stuff that I did with Molly. The difference is that as exhausting as it was, you weren't having to do it. And so now, because through the night, we kind of split up. I had Addie, you had Annie. And we did a lot of the feedings like together, just because I'm not going to get into all the different specifics of having twins, but realizing like there was no handing off the baby to your spouse and him being like, I'll carry the load after you've been up all night long nursing and pumping and this and that, because he was up all night with me. And so I think it just, I don't think we were ready for it.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that could be ready for it. I don't know.
There's no way to prepare almost.
But the point being that, it was very easy to, instead of, sitting there being thankful that we've got, two more healthy children
right
in our lives, it was more like, when is this going to end?
Right.
And I still say this today, but, I felt like that first year took about 5 years.
It felt like it took a really long time. And just remember, because if for any parents who have young children, I'm sure moms understand when you pick up someone else has a new baby and you pick, oh, the new baby, how your child probably responds suddenly like, what are you doing? Why are you holding another baby? And that like, they kind of come over and they're attached to your leg when they were happily playing like 2 seconds ago. That was the twins, except they would freak out because they knew she's not about to put this other baby down. So Adeline was very attached to me. If we go anywhere new, she's very concerned. Like before we left for the birthday party this morning, she was like, Mommy, I don't know if I'm going to be okay. I don't know that I've ever been to Audrey's house. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? We've been there 100 times. No, I don't know if I've ever been to, it might be a new place. I might be scared. And then we pull up and she's like, I know this place. And she's all excited. And I'm thinking, what? You're crazy. But that is her. So even as a baby, if we stepped anywhere outside of our home, she would get very, very clingy. And as soon as I'm then picking her up, Annie would start to cry because it would be like, why, Mom, why are you you need to be readily available for me. And I remember good friends of ours, Steve and Deb, asked us to come over their house. And I almost feel like, not that we were depressed, but it's almost like depression where it's like, the best thing for you is to get out of your house and go do something. But it sounds like the worst possible thing.
Right.
So
even to this day,
I so appreciate that they were like, come over. And we even were like, no. And we were like, you don't want us to come over with our like chaos. And they were like, no, it'll be fine. Like, we don't mind. It's totally fine. And I do remember at one point during us being there, I was holding Addie and she's crying, and you were holding Annie and she's like reaching for me, screaming. And like Deb's cleaning up dinner and Steve's like doing something with Molly and Keith. And like, I'm thinking, we're not even like enjoying that. Like, what? We are ruining their night. Like, what are we doing here? And being like, we're never leaving the house again. I think we left and you were literally like, we're never leaving the house. We're not leaving the house for another 2 years.
Yes. Well, right. I used to say that to your parents. And
you won't see us for another few years.
I think your parents ever since then have thought differently of me. But
no.
like going out to eat.
Yeah.
Even when we went down to like South Carolina down to Myrtle Beach, I remember your dad just kind of, we all went out and your dad looked at me like, is this all right?
Okay?
Is this all right?
Are you all right?
And I'd be like, no, this is fine. Everything's fine. But I would always just kind of joke around, partially serious, and just be like, I'd rather not go out anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we just get food and bring it here? That way chaos can be in our own home instead of in somebody else's.
Yeah.
And I still kind of feel that way today, but it's gotten way better.
Gotten way better, obviously. But I will say, like, that it was a stretch of time that there's actually a Easter picture that I look back, like I look at that picture and it makes me sick to my stomach just because of the craziness. Because it was even with our own family, like the twins didn't want you. They didn't want my mom. They wanted me to hold both of them. And I just remember being in my parents' backyard and I picked one up for a picture. Molly's in between us and you picked the other, and the other one's screaming because she wants me to hold her. And it being like, I don't even know how did this happen? If you're like not a pediatrician, but if you know a lot about twins and you know how that kind of thing can happen, let us know in the comments, because I would be interested in knowing, because they were twins. It wasn't like I held one of them a lot or like I felt like I was the same with them, with Molly, and all the different things that I had, read about how like that separation anxiety can be caused. I was like, I'm doing the exact opposite because there's two of them. Yet somehow this has come about.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the instructions don't come for two babies.
for two babies. But I would say that, it's okay to look back at a season in life and be like, I don't want to go back there. Like I would in a heartbeat go back to Molly and just want to relive all of that. There is a stretch of the twins' life where I'd be like,
sure,
I'll go back. I'll hold them, I'll kiss them, I'll smell
Right.
their heads, and then I want to disappear.
Yeah, right. Well, I brought this up recently too, though. While I'm creating content for this brand and for our pages, I'll often go back into some archives of footage that I have from, maybe an event or a vacation that we went on. And, I've got a lot of stuff from when Molly was real young, and I've got a lot of stuff from like the past couple years. But from, I guess that was like 2022, 2023, I don't have a ton of footage in there. And, especially the twins when they were 2 years old or under, I don't have a lot. And the few clips that I do have, I start looking at them and I'm just like, man, I barely remember them at this age. Like, obviously I remember them, but I'm not remembering them for the good parts of
Right.
it. The parts that I should have been stopping and going, hey, this is really tough, but, they're healthy.
Yeah.
And, I need to change my attitude. Unfortunately, those couple of years, I never managed to be able to pull myself to do that. And one of the other things was I never really brought my camera out. I think I just took a big break. I think I even stopped taking work. I don't think I did many weddings that year as far as photography and videography. I just wasn't taking a lot of extra work just because I couldn't handle it mentally. And so I just didn't have my camera out much. And so I'm looking at it now and I'm just like, man, that was a mistake. I should have, I still should have made an effort to get that because now I regret it. And, I wish that I had more memories of them at that age because they were really, really cute.
They were very cute.
So cute. And, I wish I had more to browse through, to use in some of this content. And, that kind of brings us into our next point where, those 2 years, we just kind of shut down in certain ways. And I think we just, excuse me. I think we just kind of found other ways to bring joy to our lives, and not necessarily all good ways.
Right.
I know personally, I think I relied more on getting the kids to bed and maybe having a drink.
Yeah.
Open up a bottle of wine or something and just try to relieve the stress. Kick back and unwind. And, you do that so many times and it just starts to become redundant and it just starts to become normal. And, I think that's kind of what led us to where we are now and to make some of the changes that we've made because, those 2 years of our lives, I think they put a bruise on life and they shouldn't have. But it was tough. They were tough times, and it was tough to see the good in that part of life.
And and we don't need to like go in or keep harping on how difficult it was, but I do want to say this in case there is any mom of twins that is in kind of a similar situation to what I was in that Addie was significantly bigger than Annie when they were born. And from everything, that I've learned with talking with our pediatrician, with looking at our two girls, that really set them apart to be quite different. And that included how quickly they spoke, how quickly Addie was able to do things that Annie couldn't do. And like I said,
it was a constant comparison.
And I really let my anxiety get away with me in sort of hyper fixating on Annie. Is she okay? What's wrong? Why is she not developing at the speed that Addie's developing at? And just being very hyper fixated on that. And instead of saying, you know what, Lord, you will not give me more than I can handle in you. And if there is something that's not right here, I can lean on you in that, as opposed to feeling like, especially because it felt like things were so tough. I already felt like in a lot of ways I was like underwater. And I've said to you many times, it felt like there was like 210%, and we were trying to split it, and we kept tossing 10% like back. We were both giving 100%, and that's all we could give, and somehow it still wasn't enough. And just feeling underwater and then thinking, is it never going to get easier because she's just going to get tougher because there's something's not right, and now we need to be, aware of that and then focused on getting her the right kind of care and whatever's going on. And even at times where I would take her to the pediatrician and he would be like, she looks like she's like, let's give it some few more months. Like everything seems fine. I'd walk away and I'd be renewed and restored. And then something else would somehow that anxiety would hit me and I'd be like, I'm worried about this again. And it did really, like you said, it bruised that time of our life.
Well, like when I look back at all the times that, we just kind of, that really just that the atmosphere was changed because of that fear.
Absolutely.
When I look back of all the, I say this lovingly.
I'm fully aware.
When I look back at all the times that we wasted, being concerned. I mean, and I'm not an anxious type of person, but even I was starting to be like, oh man, maybe you're right. Maybe there is something. And that was me letting that constant conversation and that constant fear in our lives starting to impact me. And when I look back on it, I'm just like, man, we could have been spending that time remembering the good stuff, or we could have spent that time being content. Yeah. Except, that's not really what we did.
That's not what we did. Yeah. And I would say and this is what the pediatrician had said to me, was that they give you those signs for different things for a reason to be aware, but signs are not diagnosis. So yeah, she has little signs here, but he had said, focus on the things that she's doing that completely dispel the concern. And I remember the first time she did something that I was like, if I could have taken this clip of her 3 seconds and shot it back to myself 4-6 months ago, it would have completely changed everything. I say that, but I also have to accept in anxiety, I don't think that it necessarily would have, because I think when I rewatch videos of them at that age, there were plenty of signs that she's perfectly fine and they're just developing at different rates and everything's fine. And I wasn't seeing them because my focus was on anxiety and was on getting through this season. When we get through, we'll see how she is. And we'll just be able to, once she's able to communicate with us better, we'll see how, instead of just being like, you know what? If there is something that's not totally right, we're going to love her. And I knew that that wasn't a question. I wasn't question, but let's enjoy where we are. Right. Let's enjoy this despite my anxiety. And I think anxiety makes it very difficult to be content where you are because it's all about forward future thinking.
Sure.
But I definitely wasted time worried about them instead of just saying, I'm just going to love on them right now and just enjoy them where we are right now.
Right.
Instead, I was analyzing everything she did.
And, I think, obviously we've come a long way, and even to this day, we've come a long way, and we've, I think, really changed our outlook on things. And I think that not only is that a good thing and a good way to live, but it also, in my mind, sets us up so well for if something does come along and impact us negatively, whatever that may be, to just kind of be in a good state of mind and to be grateful and to be content as often as you can. It really puts things into perspective when something does happen. And I think it's ultimately going to just completely change the way that we'll deal with it. Whereas opposed to, we're just down in the dumps for many days and months in a row. And then for something bad to happen then, I mean, what strength do you have left
Yeah.
at that point to be able to handle something. I mean, obviously, we would have to handle it no matter what, but to just kind of to take the time to be content and to take the time to think about where you are and realize, hey, things actually are pretty good. And just to accept that and to remind yourself of that, I think it sets you up so good for if something bad were to happen or life dramatically changes suddenly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are now. I think that with some of the recent changes that we've made, just the way that we're living right now, I feel more prepared than ever for the worst happening.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'll
Yeah,
respond.
don't want it, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. Obviously, yeah. And that brings me back to what I was saying. Life is it's going to be hard to beat the way life is right now because I've constantly reminded myself what we have, constantly remind myself where we are in life and the people in our lives and how good things are right now. That's the reason I remind myself is because I know it's not going to be like this forever.
Right.
It could get better. Things could get better, and that'll be great. I'll be happy, and we'll celebrate. But if they get worse, I think that we'll be ready.
And I think that's a really good point because, like we had said, I felt right after we had the twins, there was a lot of like exhaustion and a lot of through my own power sort of thing. And I remember in my mind thinking, I'll look back at this and I'll be able to be like, all right, Lord, you were faithful, even though I was not faithful. That I didn't have the capacity mentally to, I was exhausted. I mean, we had 2 infant children that were up through the night, just exhausted. And unfortunately, though it is true, I can look back and be like, you were faithful even when I was not. When I did start having concerns about Annie, I think like that analogy, which I kind of hate analogies, especially in the Christian circle, even though they're true and they're real. You hear them so much and so often, and they're not like real world. They're like intangible kind of examples. And so it's hard to kind of really take and hold on to. But the idea of like filling your cup with something and when it gets knocked, what spills out and realizing like you were just saying, to be thankful for where we are, to slow down and enjoy every moment and to sit there and say, Lord, this is all a blessing from you and my eyes are on you. And so when that wave comes,
right,
what's spilling out of you is thankfulness and gratefulness and eyes fixed on the Lord instead of exhaustion and stressed out and anxiety. And because that's what I had filled my cup with.
right.
And like I said, I don't like analogies, but it is true.
Sure.
They're there for a reason.
Well, like what Pastor Greg was preaching about last Sunday, just really talking about being ready when Jesus does come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of being ready when either Jesus comes back or being ready for when something does come along that you're just not, expecting and may impact you negatively. When I say that we're in a better place now, I owe that all to the Lord.
Yeah.
Just knowing that we are focusing on our relationship with the Lord and talking to the Lord daily, that's going to make all the difference. So as far as, preparation, knowing that we can just live freely, knowing that we've got the Lord on our side and what a difference that makes.
Absolutely.
And, if there's anybody out there that has anxiety like that or that, is in a stage of life that is just so hard to realize what you have, what the positive things are, and it's just too hard to be content. I would just encourage you to turn to Jesus and see what he has in store for you, because it's life changing, and it just changes your perspective on the tough times as well as the good times, and it's just it's everything. It's everything in our lives, and I feel so much more prepared for any changes that come along.
Yeah.
And again, at this point, any changes that happen are just they're gonna be
Stop. Just stop.
It's just gonna make life worse, because things are so good right now. I'm so thankful. All the glory to God.
Yeah.
And I hope things stay like this forever.
The ages they're at. Stop growing up.
Yeah,
anymore.
maybe we'll well, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Take things slow.
Yeah.
And enjoy the ages that they're at. I've got my camera out pretty much every day now.
Yeah.
Making videos every day. Our family's gonna start getting annoyed, but that's why I'm doing it, because I want to be able to look back on these, even though we're taking things slow. I'm gonna slow it real down, really far down, and be able to look back and just soak it all in again. So that's what we're doing. That's what this brand is all about. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that was pretty much it. I do have to say, I don't think you're going to bother us with the camera and the. I mentioned it today because I tried to film Audrey's birthday, and that was. If you ever see that footage, don't think, man, what happened to him? He was having an off day. That was done by me.
Oh, we'll tag it. We'll make sure that your name's on it somewhere.
That was my handiwork.
But I appreciate you, making the effort to try to get.
But I have to say, I remember you first doing video on our honeymoon, and there were moments where I was like,
sure,
let's move along.
I know it. It's
Whereas
annoying.
now you barely even notice that you're doing it, and it's.
I've gotten better.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, you
I've
make it
definitely
look
gotten better.
way easier than it is.
But even when it's not us, maybe your family's involved. I got to pull the camera out. I see people going, oh, okay. I'm on camera now, so I know it's annoying. But you'll thank me.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll thank me in 10 years, and you'll be like, yeah.
I think they are. We all already.
Sure glad Nate had that camera out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, this was a great conversation. Hopefully you guys stuck around to the end. And if you did, we thank you for that. And we hope you guys are getting something from our podcast. Feel free to leave us some comments, some encouragement.
Yeah, let us know. If you're we want more twin specific content, because we have lots of, we have 4 years experience twins, or if it's more, we want this or that, whatever kind of discussion you want us to have, whether it is we dive into some of the, ins and outs of having twins, or some of the things we did wrong, or whatever, let us know in the comments, and we'll definitely.
Yeah, we love talking about what we did wrong.
Because we did a lot of things.
we did, but we're
There's a lot of, look, it's a guess. It's a complete guess when it comes to kids in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we're learning and we're doing good, and we're just looking to be better. So, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.